So, as you know, this evening's theme is fashion. So I was asked to speak about a topic, Judaism and fashion. So, I thought about it a bit. And in the Parsha of Tetzaveh, which is about halfway through the book of Shemot being the second of the 5 books of Moses, just the second half of the book of Shemot deals mainly with the construction of the sanctuary, with the destruction of the tabernacle, with the construction of the Mishkan, and then after that, the Jews actually building the sanctuary, which is the temple, or if you like, their synagogue that they had in the desert. So a big question is asked, and obviously the parsha which we're going to be studying, the bit that describes the priest's clothes, is in the second half of the book of it's in the second half of the book.
We have no idea what Abraham looked like. Does it matter what Moses looked like or what Moses wore? Absolutely not. Betrayal, okay? Let's think about Jacob. Jacob disguises himself, doesn't he, as Esau? Yeah, but Jacob puts on Esau's clothes. What's the point of that if he's going to deceive his blind father? Maybe he just needed to feel the part, method acting, by putting on his brother's clothes. And it's very interesting because the verse in the Torah says that Isaac smelled his clothes. Not he saw his clothes, but he smelled his clothes. So the clothes were the betrayal. And certainly Isaac is very confused because he says, you know, that's Esau, but the voice is the voice of Jacob, the hands are the hands of Esau, what's going on? And the idea there that clothing is used to betray. In other words, he smells treachery. He smells treachery.
And 3 weeks later, we get a knock at the door in our family home. And in walks tall, handsome American guy with a big black hat on. And we were a little bit shocked. And, you know, you realise that someone's becoming religious, but you don't quite realise how religious one is becoming. And, but I've got to say that he made the biggest impact on me. They made the biggest impact on me. I remember him being in our home and the way that they spoke to each other, the way that they respected each other, the way that they communicated. And this is a very short, they've known each other a very short time. The way that they were communicating without touching each other, without physical affection, was just, it blew me away. I just couldn't believe, I just never seen it before, that's all.
Already there's a difference between here and the synagogue. When the rabbi and I walk into synagogue on a Shabbos morning, people continue talking. It's, you know, if you talk about an achievement, mostly going to say the achievement tonight is to have all these fashionistas on the stage, but actually that's not the real achievement. The real achievement tonight is to get so many people back into the West End for Jewish learning. That's the real achievement. And the second real achievement, and for those of you who are aware of shul politics, you'll know that this is a huge thing. The second thing is to get 3 West End synagogues working together, no broigas, to produce something like that. And that's the real achievement. Rabbi Sam Taylor, who's the Marble Arch Communities and Youth Director, and myself sat down about, I think it was 6 to 8 months ago. And we said, how do we get people back into the West End for learning, for Jewish learning? And we spoke for weeks about this. And then we put a committee together. And finally, it's culminated into tonight, which is something we should all be proud of. And yeah, we were sold out 4 weeks ago. That's not, you don't hear that often at a shiur, that you're sold out with 4 weeks to go. And to be honest, for our next one, which is in 4 weeks' time on the 24th of May, we're nearly sold out as well. So I would really urge you that if you do want to come to the next one, which will be the same caliber, same high-level speakers, and same interesting topics and good food, then you should really book now, because we have 150 people on our waiting list who haven't been able to make it tonight. And that's squashing in extra people as well. So I really would urge you. Our next talk is on Terrorism 2015. We've got Peter Neumann, who's a specialist in terror. We've got an ISIS specialist. We've got an ex-terrorist who now works for the government. So it's really interesting. And then we discuss all things with the Torah. When did the first terrorist attack take place in the Torah? How do we Jews feel about terror? Were we terrorists when it was the state of Israel? This is all things that we're going to talk about. Contentious, out there, modern thinking. So we'd really like you to book for that. I don't want to speak more because you didn't come to hear me speak. I would now like to introduce you to Rabbi Marcus, Rabbi of the Central Synagogue, who will address you briefly.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you for your efforts to make this a reality, and all those who have been involved, and we will thank you a little later. This evening we launch an initiative called Connect, where Stephen said a few moments ago we want to bring young and all kinds of people together back into the West End. The achievement, as Stephen also mentioned, 3 synagogues coming together. This is definitely going into the Guinness Book of Records. I want to thank all of those who've been involved in making this reality. The purpose of Connect is to challenge, to stretch our notions, our preconceived ideas, and possibly learn different ways. And that leads in nicely to what I'd like to share with you this evening. I want to talk a little bit about forgiveness. Now, I'm assuming that most people, except of course the angels amongst you, most of you have probably said something in your lives that you regret. Now, it may be compulsory in some families to be reminded constantly of one's mistakes. How many over here would want to be reminded daily of the mistakes that each and every one of us do make? Does anyone really relish being reminded of a slip-up, of a mistake? We have a thing called Yom Kippur, and for those who are not of our faith, it's our Day of Atonement. We also have another day called Pesach Sheni, based in the Bible, where someone who was not able to participate through no reason of his own was given a second chance. How many of you would be able to live with a new app on your smartphone or any device that you walk around with an app that would bleep once a day, every single day, and remind you of the mistake that you made? How many would be able to live with that? On Yom Kippur, on our Day of Atonement, we ask the Almighty and we expect atonement. So my challenge and my question is, can we not as Jews extend that to others? one of our guests of honor, John Galliano, whom we welcome here, reached out a number of years ago, acknowledged his mistake publicly, apologized for it publicly. This opposed to an endless list of other celebrities and high-profile people. If I were to list them, you would be here until next year. People like Mel Gibson, people like Jenny Tong, Galloway, David Ward, and so on, have all said offensive things in their time. David Irving had to be taken to court because he was a purveyor of the greatest distortion of Holocaust denial. And here we have somebody who had the courage to subject himself to a long period of reflection, study, done quietly, behind closed doors. And that also included spending time with Holocaust survivors, one of whom is here sitting right in the front row, my dear friend Harry Ulmer, who gave up his time to sit with John. Only 2 weeks ago, the President of Israel made an official visit to Germany, where the 50 years of renewed contacts was marked with great pomp. To equate what someone says with the crimes of the Nazis is disingenuous. And just because someone is a celebrity, he should not be treated more harshly than others. That is not the Jewish way. We need to show a little bit more graciousness. And this evening I hope we will learn that there is another way. We are described as Rachmanim, B'nai Rachmanim. Merciful people, the children of merciful people. Let us show that side of who we are when dealing with each other. The Bible says quite clearly in the book of Leviticus in Vayikra, Lo tonu ish et amito. It is forbidden to cause distress to another human being. Every time a journalist or an individual make rash and ill-informed judgments on another human being, they are guilty of that trespass. And when they do so, and when we plug into that so easily, believing what we read in newspapers, whose very often sole purpose is to sell, it's commercial, it is sensational. But when we get dragged along with that, we blemish ourselves also. In the spirit of togetherness, in the spirit of recognizing what unites us as human beings, I would like this evening on your behalf to welcome our panel. First of all, Ronit Zilka, very well known and famous designer. Sitting close by me is John Galliano, who is now responsible for designing Kippot for Central Synagogue. And in his spare time, he does dabble a little bit in fashion. I'd also like to welcome Sandy Rashki, who is the business editor of the Jewish Chronicle, alongside with Caroline Burstein, who is the founder of Molton Brown and formerly the creative director of Brown, who will be posing the questions this evening to John and to Ronit. And thereafter, some of the questions that you sent in a little earlier will be posed to the panel. So ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to our panel. And over to you, sir.
I would just like to say a few words here. Wonderful speech, for sharing that thought. Very powerful, I think. I would like to thank Rabbi Marcus for everything he's done, his support and faith where others treated me as an outcast. He has welcomed me to the synagogue. I am an alcoholic. I am an addict. This is in no way an excuse. We alcoholics and we addicts are not responsible for our disease. However, I do take complete responsibility for my recovery and for making amends. I get a daily reprieve from this disease, and that's only achieved through total abstinence. I would also like to thank Rabbi Barry Marcus for illuminating the meaning of atonement to me, which has helped me a great deal, and I draw parallels with the program I follow and recovery, where I used to blame everyone for what happened, but now I bear no resentments. I've finally come to terms with what happened and what my part was to do with it, which has changed the perspective. So I'm able to reach out and forgive and ask for forgiveness. I'd also like to thank Rabbi Barry Marcus for introducing me to Harry. Harry's here tonight. Harry is a survivor of the Holocaust. We spent some time together. We shared a summer labor. Harry told me his story. Then Harry asked me if I had any questions. It took me some time to recompose myself, and yes, I did have a burning question. And I said, Harry, how did you survive? And he said, faith. He never lost faith, which greatly inspired me. And I'm happy to say that I have regained my faith today, and I am back in touch with my spiritual path. And I just wanted to let you know, thank you for listening.
Shall we talk about fashion?
Of course, we will.
I just wanted to ask, what you spoke about was so moving. And you spoke about your work with Rabbi Marcus, with, you also did work with Abraham Fox of the Anti-Defamation League, and of course Harry sitting here in the room today. What did you learn from this experience that you didn't know about the community before?
What I learned from this experience was really to take each day by day. So often, as you know, in the fashion industry, one is so concerned with what happened last season or one's heads in 2018. And while I was doing that, I was creating 32 collections a year. I wasn't living. My life was passing away. So today, I realize how precious it is. I also realize now that God is in the driving seat, not me. Before I was self-willed, before I was self-willed, now I realize it's God's will. And that's made a huge amount of difference. And they're the things I have learned with these guys.
And it couldn't be easy for you to come here and sit in this room and say what you did.
No, it wasn't.
What do you hope the community will take from this?
I would just like to share. That's all really, my experience. And if I can help anyone with the experience I've had, even if it's just to let you know there is help out there. There really is. You only have to reach out.
And of course, you've had highs and lows in your career. What did you learn from your...
You just have to get up and go. You just have to really, get up and get on with it. There is highs and lows, and I think everybody, not just in fashion, in every business, we all get it. And, it's really just you have to almost like develop a coping mechanism, so you know how to cope with it when it comes. And you know, it just comes and goes.
And it's quite interesting because you both come from such different backgrounds. You know, you grew up in Gibraltar, Roman Catholic family, you grew up in Israel as a Jewish family. How does religion come to play in your designs?
For me, it didn't come into. I mean, I think more like the essence of being, you know, born in Israel and, you know, Israeli and all the inspiration of like, you know, the childhood in Israel. I mean, that maybe more came, you know, it's the freedom really. I don't think the Jewishness came into it. It's, you know, I think it was more like the childhood maybe, and the childhood memories and, you know, your first memories and the colors and everything. I mean, obviously growing up in Israel, it's just, you know, it's colorful, it's all, I don't know, it's this brightness, like, and anybody, you know, probably knows about it. It's like, the minute you land, there is this brightness. Every color looks different when we're here. And I think that's what makes it that took with me.
How about you, John?
Yes, it has had an influence on me. I mean, today it has a much more spiritual influence on me. I speak to God every day. Back then, of course, I was impressed by the circumstances of communion, confirmation, 9 o'clock Mass, 10 o'clock Mass, Gospel Mass at 11. The incense, the gold, the sense of occasion and dressing for an occasion. We were boiled and scrubbed and it was, yeah, that's kind of fashionatic.
And how has, you know, what inspired you at the start of your careers changed, you know, to what inspires you now?
For me, when in the start of it, I always knew that I wanted to be a fashion designer. I remember from early age, my early memories is my mum sewing room, loads of colourful fabric, industrial machine, and every time like she'll have an occasion, it's a matter of, you know, putting fabrics together and making a dress for a special occasion. And I think in those days, that's how it is. You don't just go out and you buy a dress, you make it, and you embroider it, and you bead it, and that's what I remembered. And I always thought it's fascinating. And for me, the fascination of like how you take a fabric and you just make something out of it, that was for me, you know, the ultimate, and that's obviously what started me at early age. And I always knew that's what I wanted to do. I didn't have any doubts in my mind.
It's quite interesting to know what you all think about, you know, how drastically the fashion industry has changed. We have rappers, we have Kanye West coming up with a new line, we have reality TV stars popping out a new collection, you know, every other season and so on. Are you a bit resentful about it, given how hard you had to work to build up both of your names?
I mean, no.
Can I say something? I think I'm very fortunate because I sort of sit in a bridge. I come from a retail family. I come from, in my own way, I'm very fortunate with my heritage in that I've also always been brought up with fashion. It's in my DNA, but always from a buyer's side and a retailer's side. And from my childhood, I've been a very fortunate person in that I was there at your very first fashion show, sitting alongside my very famous mother. And, and it is the memory of that small show will always be, you know, something that I will never forget. I also, because my adult life is, for one reason or another, has always been in South Molton Street. So Ronit shopped in Brook Street, and I've always lived North London. So Ronit Zilko was a shop, you know, that I've always sort of popped in and seen all my adult life. And I see you as both two different faces, one of many different faces of fashion. You, perhaps for me, I've always seen as a more grounded. You know, your fashion has been for all women, for all women, and very, you know, lovely and easy. Whereas you, John, have been, and you are, you're a creator of a different type, of a type that creates dreams and has allowed younger generations to come up and dream as well. You've experienced fame in a different way that you've experienced fame. But I know that all three of us, what we share in our lives, in our various and different ways and lives of fashion, is that actually we get up and every day we have a multitude of problems to solve. Whether it's choosing a button or a thread or a shape or a fabric. For me, it's staff issues half the time, and it's all in the everyday detail. And all of us here who are in business, and I'm sure many of you are, all I can say, I don't think it's any different for any of us. The difference with fashion is that we have a gloss. And the media shines us very, very brightly. And we all then feel we have to live up to this gloss. I don't know how, I think you've both experienced this in a different way. So I don't know about you, but I'd like to hear about how this experience is for you, and then how this experience is for you. Run it.
It's fun because in fashion there is no day the same as the other. No days are the same. So it's like one day you walk in and a fabric arrives, and it's the color to die for. It's exactly what you wanted, and you're on such a high. Nobody understands why you're on a high. It's a fabric. It's red, it's black, but no, it's the right fabric, it's the right red, it's the right black. And you get so excited about it, about this piece of fabric. You can't explain it. And then something works out and you have a fantastic day. But then the next day you come in and a black fabric comes. But it's not the right black. And everybody would not see the difference and they would not understand what the fuss is about. But, you have a day like this, and then you can have a day which will be like, the worst day. Why? Because something just didn't work out. And things are always not working out, like in fashion, because it's like you have to, if it's the fabric, if it's the delivery, if it's the creation, if it's like the button, there's always something that, you have to struggle with. And yes, there is a gloss, and everybody's obviously, there is a magic about it. There is a magic, but it's really through a lot of hard work and a lot of determination, and you want to get it right. Yeah, passion.
Absolutely, passion. I agree.
It's my driving.
Yes.
And still is.
Yes.
But it's amazing how people around you sometimes they don't understand what you dreamed of.
Underestimate how hard it is.
Yeah. And yeah, I do understand what you mean by passion, because I think all of us in the world of fashion understand. Fashion brings out passion, and it is about a journey. And I don't think any of us think enough. In my journey with fashion, for a very short time, I actually attempted to do Brown's own label, and was actually allowed to do it for about 3 seasons before my father went, "We're not making any profit, close it down." But through that, I actually had the fortune, I think, of experiencing that every single detail, every piece of clothing we're wearing, every button that you've got, every zip, every turn of the collar, someone has thought about it, it is considered. And it's been considered all along a chain, right from, if it's leather, the animal that's been slaughtered for us, to the people that have batted that leather. And if it's cloth, it's the people who've woven it. It's the button maker, every single thing. And I think it's when that is brought together that it's enormous. It's enormous, our world. And it is very exciting, humbling, and hard, and all those things. And I don't think the general public, the fashion magazines, the newspapers, the hype, ever give this aspect of it the consideration that I think it deserves. I don't know what you think.
I agree with that. You're saying it as an all-consuming passion, all-consuming. I had a wonderful experience. Well, I've been out of the game for 4 years and 4 months. I'm 4 years old and 4 months. And it was a great time to kind of sit back and take stock of what was going on. And at that point I said to myself, well, when I go back, I know that nothing's going to have changed. It would be the same. The workload would be the same. The stress would, everything would be the same. But I made a concerted effort that my perception of it would change, and that has really helped me today, because I can stand back and actually find it quite amusing that we're talking about a shiny black on that flat for 2 hours. It's quite amusing. But we keep it in perspective. But that does make a lot of difference to the client. She may not, she'll feel, she'll look wonderful. But it does make a difference.
It's funny how now, I think it's our later stage in life. It's like you can look back and honestly, when you're young, you're such a fuss man. And it's like, you think, what was it? There's no difference. It never made any difference. Why did we make a fuss? But I think, obviously as you get older, you know how to compromise.
With that perspective, and you're watching new designers come up, and trends are changing, and social media is changing everything. How do you stay current? Do you ever worry whether you'll ever? I'm being PC. You started teaching young people as well.
Yeah.
What advice do you give them that you wish you had when you were starting out?
Oh gosh, there's a lot, but I've been approached to be a visiting professor at the university, and as well just to take graduate and postgraduate students and teach them about not just fashion, and that's the whole element of it. It's fashion management, branding, luxury fashion, innovation, everything together. Because the problem is that they learn about fashion, but fashion is just part. Being a fashion designer is just part of like the whole thing, the whole like going into the fashion business. And what we're trying to show students as well nowadays is, how to teach them for the whole process, how to teach them to have a vision, how to teach them to have a path, to know what they're aiming for. And obviously when they come out of like university, they know where they're going, and they know what they want to do. And to get them ready even for something like an interview, to get them ready how to cope with the big companies, how to cope with small companies. What would you like to do? And today, with the new generation, it's so easy. Anybody can open a shop today because it's online. We didn't have online. We had...
Sorry, I think it seems easy. I think, what you think seems easy. The perception is easy, but it's not easy.
It's not easy, but it's like we didn't have the tools. We didn't have the social media. We didn't have any social media. If you think about it, it's 10 years, that's all. I'm celebrating 25 years this year. There was nothing. There was no internet, there was no social media. We had to wait for people to walk down the road to come to the shop. And if it was raining, it wouldn't be in the street.
It was very nice. I was there like you,
but nobody
in our various shops for people to walk in and discover. I think personally, as all of us here have sort of been, pre-internet, pre-social media, and posts and within social media, and there are things that we bemoan that about our lives pre-social media, and I think we're all running on the short tails of social media because it is a new world for all of us, whichever industry we are in. And we really have no choice but to embrace it. And there are the aspects of it that are positive, are incredibly positive. And there's no point in looking back. There's no point in looking back. There were great times. It was great. Brown's Headed era when we were the only boutique that was selling international designers, discovering John Galliano and Alexander McQueen and many, many designers, and bringing designers over from the States before there was social media, and everything, there was a comfortable time, but nothing stays still. And if you stay still, it's over. It is, you stay behind. So we're all, in our own way, it's life, it's the life force, and I think that's the life force showing within all our industries, we all are subject to life force. We grow up, we grow old, and the next generation's pushing us on. And it's the same. And I think it is rapid. It does feel rapid. And I think we all bemoan the rapidity of it. I think that's what's sort of quite interesting. I'm very interested, and I'm intrigued, and I'm thrilled that you're working representing Martin Margiela, who is actually a company that Martin started, and I'm also fortunate enough, because of where I've sat, to have met him and seen his face and shook his hand, and had realized how down to earth and grounded a person he is, and that he wanted that for his business, and that this is a business that actually you could almost be aside from all the social media, because it's about the product and a philosophy, if you like. And it's about clothes for anyone, any woman who wants to feel that it's a freedom. There's a freedom, I believe, in the philosophy of this designer that doesn't follow anyone, but his own gut instinct of what he feels is right and is grounded. And I think if we can, to have a company like this that's still thriving and strong in these times, is really exciting as well. There are not many designers who can still stand there and do their own thing and not be forced to do things that possibly they wouldn't want to do, but they feel they have to. And I know for you, right, I'm sure it's different for you, because you've also, and I have as well, we've all gone through, I've lost my business and had to start again. And we all have our disappointments and our hardships, but I'm sure you will agree, they're what make us strong. And as you say, they make us strong, and also stronger also to cope with all the new things that are thrust on us in today's world that we didn't grow up with, but that we have to learn to adapt to and to live with and to own.
With social media, the models that you display your garments on have become so much more accessible. We've got Cara Delevingne, Kendall Jenner, Instagramming every second of their life.
She's got 26 million.
Would you ever go into social media as well? Have you managed to?
Dabble. Learning.
Do designers, you feel, also have a responsibility to tackle issues facing the industry? Jordan Dunn recently spoke about, size 0 and the reluctance to use any model that wasn't a white model. Do designers play a part in that responsibility in battling that?
Also, but yeah, they use how people think art.
Yeah.
They've always used styles from all over the world. But they're doing that kind of.
I always used, and I actually love the mix. I always used to love, to mix like all things together, which was quite nice. And as well, I always had this thing about not too thin and not too young as well. Because some of them were just too young, and you have to really, you show see-through things in shows. It's a show, and you always have to make sure that you ask them if they mind or whatever. But I think models, they don't give them enough credit, I think. They work so hard. Those girls, they really work hard. I remember they used to come for casting. They all day long, they travel from one designer to the other for casting. They barely have time to drink, they barely have time, they just on the go the whole day. They work really hard. And I don't think they get the credit. Everybody thinks, okay, not once they become famous is different maybe, and a few names that, they don't have to do all the kind. But when they start, I remember I used to feel sorry for them, how hard they work. And they really try to pursue something. And they want it so badly. People don't give, but I always had the same, feeling. Not too young, obviously. Not too skinny. And you can see, but they do eat. They do eat. Backstage, you always have a healthy corner because you think models would like healthy things, and you've got not the healthy thing, which is cake and crisps. The apples and the healthy things were always left there. They would not touch it. They would all eat the crisps and the chocolates and everything behind this. And you try and really make it more healthy because you think, you know, no. At the end, I remember we used to give up. It was never the health. We didn't even buy it, of course. But they do. They eat a lot. It's just they on the go all the time.
And you've spoken before about, you know, shying away from the scene that comes with the fashion industry a lot of the time. You know, after a show, would you ever go to an after party?
I always shied away, yes. I always shied away. I felt like, for me, it was the show, and then it's almost like that's it. I want to move on to the next one. I don't know, it was more the creativity, I think. My enjoyment was to create it, to do the show, and then it wasn't like so much the social aspect of it. I don't know. Looking back, I don't know why, but then it was.
You did all the parties.
You did it all.
I did enjoy the creative
And you had a great time, I'm sure. You're allowed to have a great time.
conscious most of the time, but yeah, it was part of the job. It was part of the job.
It is part
But
of it.
I always, at the time, wished I'd been invited to
I mean, I prefer the creative process. I always have done, and I'm quite a shy person. So, I mean, it took a lot of courage for me to be able to walk into those kind of parties and stay and mix and do what I had to do.
One thing I just want to say, talking about the fashion industry, and I think we're all here because you're interested in the fashion industry, and we were talking about the models and the coloured models and non-white models are it's harder for them. I have to say, I think one thing about our fashion industry is actually it's sort of the least probably judgmental of all the industries. It's an industry where I know from our own store where we have about 100 people or so. I would say we're United Nations, and we always have been. There's been every colour, culture, sexual inclination, and they all work for us and with us because of what they bring as an individual. And I've seen this in design companies and with the students that come through, and I'm sure you will agree. I think of all the industries, it's probably the least judgmental, the least racist, the least prejudiced of all of them, where everyone will stand a chance, and it's because of what they bring as human being. And I genuinely don't feel that they are judged first and foremost on anything that's racial, actually. And I think that's, I think we...
Can I just come in? I'll just come in on the point of being invited and not being prejudiced. Many of you, I know, took the trouble to send in some questions.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should involve our wonderful audience who have been sitting spellbound and maybe just share some of the questions that have come through and put them to the panel.
For sure. So we've got some questions from people submitted in advance, but I said, but before can I just ask one thing? I discovered something quite funny in the meeting room before. I was asking for some top tips for the audience. You know, should I always wear black and navy? Should I wear colour? You know, is men's fashion less exciting than women's? You know, we should never wear socks and sandals, we all know that. And I discovered that every single person wears socks and sandals. Yeah. So, anyway. So, this is from Francine Peters. This is to you, John. If what happened hadn't happened, do you think you would still be at Dior, or would you have naturally left on your own accord?
I think I would be dead.
Okay. This is another question to you from Gabby Morris. Anti-Semitism in France has been widely discussed in the wake of the recent incidents in Paris. Prior to making the comments, which led to your dismissal from Dior, do you encounter a casual or overt anti-Semitic incidents in France or England? And what led you to share those views and your specific comments so openly when you let your guard down?
Well, they're not views that I keep, or I believe. They're not beliefs I believe in. I live in the centre of the Jewish community. I live in the Marais. I have not witnessed such acts myself. Does that answer your question?
Yes. This one's from Belinda. Clothes make the man, or man makes the clothes. What do celebrity endorsements mean to designers, and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, obviously it helps. It helps, and you know, especially as a young, if you start in as a young designer, you know, for me it was, for instance, Diana when she came in and she bought things from the shop. I mean, you know, it's fantastic. You can't aim more than that, but you know, I think it was simple then because they would walk down the street and they would get. You don't have to endorse. It's just, you know, it just happens. And now there is much more pressure, obviously, because you know, there's so much choice. They have so much choice, and you know, I think maybe that's a bit more. You know, there's so much choice for them to choose from. Maybe then there was reason.
I think there's probably too much choice, and I personally think it's rather sad that one can become famous or expects one's business to depend on the personality or having a famous person endorse your product. I think what it does do is take away from the individual's ability to actually discern what actually is lovely and would suit me. You know, why do I need to have read or had it twittered that, you know, that somebody's wearing a particular handbag for me to want to wear this handbag? Personally, I'd run a mile from anything like that. So I think, I hope that what will happen, like all these things, is that the right way and the people who are really talented and who really have that passion and staying power and ability, and for a designer or any company to get to the top and to stay at the top, it takes a lot more than having a star endorse them for 5 minutes. It's really about the quality of the work that goes into their brand. That will speak for itself.
And this is the last question, I believe it's to you again, Jean. It's from Professor Gracilon, if I pronounced that right. She says, sometimes periods of setback, even if perceived as unjust or unfair, provide an opportunity for reflection or self-observation. Has the incident taught you some things about yourself, the things that matter to you, your work, the industry, your impact on other people that you didn't know before?
Great question. Yes, all that. I mean, before I would ask God for things, but I would never slow down enough to listen to the answer. Now through prayer and meditation, when there are some things I just can't work out, I throw it out there, and the next day I work it out. But I know it's not me that's worked it out. That's something.
Thank you all for being here with us tonight.
Well, I want to thank all our panelists tonight. It was so nice to see such revelation, such emotion, such honesty. The idea of forgiveness, amazing that we're able to come here and we're able to forgive and we're able to elevate ourselves to a higher plane and be positive. And I think that's the message I think we should take away tonight. I'd like to just say thank you very briefly to the panelists firstly. Round of applause. To our wonderful speakers we had in the breakout sessions. And some special thank yous. First of all to Daniel Dover and Nicola Green from BDO, who have given us their premises for the evening. Not only have they given us their premises, but they've been so kind. They have helped us towards other costs, and they really have gone out of their way. And Nicola has been working 24 hours, a day, every day, except on Shabbos for the last 2 months. This also wouldn't have happened without the Chief Rabbi Center for Rabbinical Excellence, in particular, Rachel Shababo. I've been very blessed to be able to work with a few great people on our committee, but one person stands out specifically, and that is a lady called Carol Harris. Carol is the Managing Director of Creative Interpartners, and I can't tell you how hard she's worked, and it's been so great to be able to ask her for advice and learn so much from her. She's all embarrassed at the back there, but she's been fantastic. Thank you, Carol. Blake Ezra Photography. Those of you who know the wedding industry or any corporate stuff will know that there's this nice Jewish boy. He's over there. Blake's given of his time tonight, also at no cost. And we're so thankful, Blake, for everything you've done for us tonight. Thank you. Steve, our video guy, who again has been so kind to us tonight. He was at our last talk at our synagogue, where we spoke about anti-Semitism, and he videoed the whole thing, and we had 30,000 hits within a few weeks or months. That's very impressive for a synagogue. So thank you, Steve. I do have apologies from Rabbi Moshe Friedman, who's the rabbi of New West End, one of the participating synagogues. Unfortunately, his best friend was killed tragically last night in a car accident, and he was not able to be here. But I didn't want you to think he didn't want to be here. I'd like to lastly thank the helpers from our 3 synagogues. Without you, this wouldn't have happened. And to just say good night, thank you for coming, and please do book for our Terrorism 2015 on the 24th of June. That's in 4 weeks' time. Thank you.